Hey, what's up, everybody? Going live at a little bit of a different time today. Let me know if this time of the day works for you. I think there's going to be a number of you who this will not necessarily work for because, hey, what's up, everybody? It's a different time of the day. So going live at a little bit of a different time today. Let me know if do it a little bit earlier, but let me know in the comments. I think there's going to be a number below. Of course, I'm going to be answering your questions on this one because, and well, I'm really doing this right now. I feel like I'm getting a little bit of a different lot of really good questions, and I'm trying to let me know in the comments below. Of course, I'm going to be so like what I have been doing. I'm going to go ahead and jump in to the preview right now. I feel like that came up really good questions last time. Let me know and pulling up in just a second. Of course, I'm going to be so like what hopefully you guys can hear me. We had some technical difficulties last time with that. I think it's probably working now. I'm going to go ahead and jump in that you can't hear me. Looks like everybody can. Okay, so I actually figured out that there is a way to look at the top chat replay. It's just probably on the right-hand side of the video. That makes a huge difference. So I'm going to answer some of those first. Okay, so I actually figured out that there is an echo. There's an echo. Is that better? You can probably see the mic now, but does that remove the echo, Max? Thanks for that feedback. So I'm going to answer some of those first. Should be only figured out that there is an echo. One source. How's that, Max? Does that work? Hey, Sam. What's up? How's it going? Still an echo? Bad echo. Sorry about that, guys. Just give me 1 second. Tell me, is there still an echo? Echo. Not sure what the echo is coming from. I'm just going to check it. Is there still an echo? Okay, yeah, sounds like it's gone now. Okay, great. Sorry, guys. Again, technical difficulties. Now we get to see the mic right in front of my face. That's possibly why it was, because of the studio I have here might have a little bit of an echo. Odd. Okay, so again, I'm going to be answering questions for you guys. So if you have any questions, I know I've started a little bit early. Part of the reason I do start early is because of this. I'm still testing this stuff out. So every once in a while you get the technical malfunctions that happen, even though most of the setup is exactly the same. Jonas says, please keep up the great content. Thank you, Jonas. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoy it. Really am. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and look at some questions from last time and answer some of those until you guys start asking some questions. So I'm going to try and not use my phone anymore. Instead, I've got another computer right next to me that is actually handling it, and I've got my web streaming one over here. So I've got a couple of different things going on. So if you see me looking back and forth, literally the only reason why. And yeah, so anyways, let's go ahead and jump into some of the questions. I'm going to start with Nikhil. He asked, what is your opinion on using Python for mobile app development with Kiwi? I actually did talk about this on April 2nd quite a bit. What I would say is I'm a little disappointed with Kiwi overall. I think that it's one of those frameworks that has a lot of potential for building mobile applications, but I think it falls short, especially if you're coming from the web development area. So if you're familiar with HTML and CSS, moving into something like Kiwi is a little bit challenging, a little bit too challenging if you ask me. And I mean, maybe it's changed since I've used it, so I haven't used it in at least a year, maybe more. And I will say that I would love to see something more in Python as far as building mobile applications is concerned. Kiwi, I just think it falls short a little bit more than I would hope. Let's see, but thanks for the question, Nikhil. I do appreciate it. I mean, Kiwi itself is fairly popular for building mobile applications with Python. But I think if you're going to go and try and build apps, and you are interested in really building a solid experience for an app, if you're doing iOS, you might as well learn Swift, assuming that you know Python really well. You can move into Swift, I think, pretty easily. Swift is not actually that difficult of a language. And if you're wanting to build for Android, I would go either the Ionic framework route or using Java. Java is a little bit more challenging than Python, so that's part of the reason I would say that using Swift with iOS is probably a little bit easier of those things. But overall, if you want something to work on both iOS and Android, check out the Ionic framework. It's really cool. So Ionic, like Ionic bonds, Ionic framework. It's really cool. It's done in Angular, so I'd check that out. All right, so let's see. I think some of these other questions that are from last time are things that I've answered quite a bit. So those were the live chat questions. I'm going to now go into the comments section of the video. So after the video is done streaming, you can ask questions in the comments below. And again, I'll take a look at it over here. So one of the questions is from Wasanu. He asks from Thailand. He says, thanks from Thailand. Love your channel. Thank you, Wasanu, for checking it out. Do we have to use a virtual environment on a production server? No, you don't have to ever use a virtual environment, to be honest. But I think it's really good for packaging the things that you need for your project to run. All of those requirements are nicely packaged together in a virtual environment. So that's why I would recommend doing that also on a production server, but it's not completely necessary depending on how you have your production server set up. Joffrey asks how to do push notifications using Firebase or Amazon SNS, especially when we build Angular Ionic apps on top of Django and as a Django backend. He's from Kenya. Well, Joffrey, thanks so much. I know I joked around about your name, but I really appreciate the question. I much prefer Joffrey Rush, who plays Barbosa. I thought his name was Jeffrey Rush, but anyways, how do you send push notifications from Firebase? Firebase itself has really good tutorials on how to do this anyway. So what you would essentially do is trigger something in Django that sends that notification. It does get a little bit more complicated than that, but Firebase handles a lot of the infrastructure. So you just have to do one simple API call when a notification needs to be sent. And that's it. Firebase is really that easy. In my experience, Amazon SNS could be that easy, but it's just, I don't think the bugs are worked out as well as Firebase. Now that's when I used it last, and I haven't used it for a little while. So that's that one. I'll answer a couple more from yesterday, and then we'll go back to the live stream. I realize I see some of you guys asking questions already, so keep them coming because I will start from the beginning and keep going. So Pedro asks, hi, thanks for your live feeds and videos. Thanks so much, Pedro. I appreciate it. Or Pedro, excuse me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Do you use Anaconda as a virtual environment, or do you stay with Python 3.6? What do you recommend? I actually don't use Anaconda very often. I know it's really popular with data scientists, but I really like using virtual environments themselves. So pip install virtual env. I'm really interested in the new Pi env. I think that's going to be something that I need to do a lot more research on. And Anaconda does have its place, but Anaconda itself is a big package. So I typically like using virtual environments because I can keep them really, really narrow and not have to install and maintain Anaconda at all. Because there's some dependencies that happen with using Anaconda, or dependency problems. That's kind of what I've been working with. And then if you're talking about an IoT device, you might not even need a virtual environment at all. So if you have one single IoT device, like a Raspberry Pi, you might just stick with just installing on the general system itself and not like using Python 3.6 and just pip install stuff, and not necessarily using a virtual environment, because you don't need to add that layer of complexity. Even though it's not that complex, you don't really have to add it. Okay, so the other questions I'm not going to be able to get to because I want to actually answer the live stream ones, but thanks so much for the questions, guys. I really do appreciate it. Okay, so now back to the live stream, back to Jonas. You have a satisfying voice. Thank you, Jonas. I appreciate that. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by a satisfying voice, but I think it's a compliment. Thank you. So Sam, what do you recommend for what host do you recommend for Django? I only use Python Anywhere. Not sure if I should use it in production for clients. So I use Heroku all of the time. Heroku, I think, is just really, really easy to deploy. That being said, it's more financially expensive to actually do so. But the financially expensive means that I also get to save a ton of time in deploying, right? So I don't have to go through a ton of things that you might have to on other hosts. Even something like Elastic Beanstalk on Amazon Web Services, it tries to be like Heroku, but it's not. I don't think it's executed as cleanly as Heroku is. So that's the Heroku is the one I use all the time. Now, if you're looking to be more budget conscious, which is completely fine, WebFaction, I've used them for a very long time, and I highly recommend them because their support is on point. They really do help out their customers, and even if it's a customer that's paying $5 or $10 a month, I mean that's just awesome. I can't say enough about how great their support has been over the years. I have done affiliate stuff with them before, but I haven't in a while, so just keep that in mind. Python Anywhere, I don't actually have a lot of experience with Python Anywhere, but a lot of my students have used it and seem to like it a lot. I just pretty much have stuck with Heroku for a while because of just how simple it is. Thanks for the question, Sam. William Chin asks, can we have a project use Django and Angular CLI? Absolutely. So when you're saying Angular and Django, or Angular CLI and Django, do you mean like in the same project? You probably want to separate them out. So like your Django project is in its own directory and folder structure, and then your Angular CLI project is in its own folder and directory. And then when you go to build Angular CLI, you'll just build that into the local static files DIRs inside of Django. And then you have Django, run collect static and do all those things as you normally would. That's pretty much how you would do it. I have a lot of tutorials on joincfe.com covering the Django and Angular integration, and that uses the Angular CLI. Thanks for the question, William. Appreciate it. So next one, I actually cannot pronounce your name, but it looks like Pi Satem. Pi Satem says hello. Hello, Pi Satem. Please correct me on that. I know that's probably not how you pronounce it, but I'm really not familiar with that alphabet, let alone how to pronounce your name. So I'm really curious actually what that alphabet is and how to pronounce your name, your full name, if you don't mind. Again, I'm not trying to offend or anything like that. I'm just trying to learn your guys' names so I can better pronounce them when you ask questions. Or give statements like, hello, good to see you. Max Techwell, I want to build a game with Python. Is Pygame the best way to go about doing it? Max, I don't actually build very many games, but yes, Pygame, if you want to build it with Python, Pygame I think is like the thing to use. As far as I know, that is the thing to use, and everything that I've ever heard about Pygame or Pygame is definitely up there. It's like really, really cool. Joseph Whittington asks, what about React Native? What are you asking specifically about React Native? It's like for front-end development. Is that what you're asking? My thoughts on React right now have just completely readjusted with the things that are going on with privacy and Facebook. I think there's a good amount of developer backlash to React because of these data leaks from Facebook, and there's a lot of developers that might think that it's possible that Facebook injected some malicious code or some tracking code inside of React. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but it definitely makes me think, because it would make sense that Facebook wants to know everything about you, just like Google probably does, and Google might do the same thing in Angular. So these are questions that do come to mind when thinking about using these third-party packages. That being said, React Native, I've only heard great things about it. I haven't used a whole lot, but I have a friend of mine tells me all the time how much I have to actually use React because I'll fall in love with it. So give it a shot. That's what I think. I mean, with any technology, even if there's concerns about some motivations or whatever, I would say that you should try it out for yourself and be willing and flexible to switch to any other technology, even if it's not like the current popular thing. Like React is very popular right now. Angular is very popular right now, right? But people don't seem to talk about jQuery as much as they used to, but it still works really, really well. I think the same is true with PHP, right? Like it still works really well. It's just not used as much. I don't like it that much either, personally. Okay. Zumo TV asks how to start an AI, any online course. So do I have online courses in artificial intelligence? I do not. Not at this point. Artificial intelligence is, well, it depends on what you mean by artificial intelligence, right? So if you're trying to build something like Ava in Ex Machina, that robot, I think we're several years away before any single person will come close to being able to do that. Now, if you're trying to build a chatbot that kind of responds for you, there's definitely some YouTube tutorials out there. I think DEX. I think he actually, I'm pretty sure it's Michael Harrison, or maybe it's Harrison. Maybe that's his name. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure he has a tutorial on using chatbots that I think is worth checking out. I mean, he's done a lot of really cool stuff for Python anyway, so he's a good YouTube channel to check out. Anyway, so as far as other AI sort of courses, Udacity and Coursera both have a lot of things in deep learning and machine learning that, if I was you, I would go and check those ones out. I think they're really, really good. Sebastian Thurn, the founder of Udacity, has I'm pretty sure he started Google Brain. If it wasn't Google Brain, it was probably Google's self-driving car thing 10 years ago. And he's done a lot of cool stuff. And he's a big proponent of artificial intelligence and teaching things about it online through his website, Udacity. So you might be wondering, like, why me as a teacher? Why would I ever recommend, other instructors? Well, the reason for that is, number one, I want to help you guys build and launch your projects. So if that means you have to take somebody else's course, cool. Like I'm all for that. I think you should do that anyway, right? Like, yeah, I would love if you used everything that I've ever done and that's all you ever do. Well, actually, I wouldn't love that. I would love it if you did everything that I've ever done and then you also did everything else that you are super interested in on any source and made your project happen. That is my goal, is to help you make your project happen. And if that means sending you to another programming language that I don't use, if that means sending you to another website that I don't work with or have any affiliation with, that's fine. Like, I think it's more important that you guys launch projects than my ego and what I'm doing, right? Plain and simple. So that's why I will tend to recommend these other things, especially on live. I mean, if we were in person talking about this, it's the exact same thing. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is make it as if I'm actually hanging out with a group of you and giving you some honest feedback, or as honest as I possibly can be, about building and launching your projects. Thanks for the question. I know I went on a tangent. I do that a lot. So if you guys haven't seen that yet, I definitely go on tangents. But when you ask about online courses and AI, it's something that I'm really, really interested in. So happy to talk more about it if you guys have questions there. Next question. Let's see. It's Anurang Patel. Thank you for the question, Anurang. Anurang? Sorry, I'm definitely pronouncing your name incorrectly. What would be a better option for hosting an embedded device? Flask or Django, or another option? A hosting server for an embedded device. Well, Flask is a lighter weight framework than Django. So that means that the actual footprint is smaller than Django. So in some cases, Flask will be a really good solution for you. And since there's so many Python libraries to work with embedded devices, you would probably use one of those libraries. I believe Adafruit, the the retailer that sells a lot of electronic devices, actually has a lot of these packages that you could use. So honestly, you could use Flask or Django. Like I've done stuff on Raspberry Pi, I use Django because that's what I know and that's what I can build really quickly. But if you're looking to make things as small as possible, Flask I think would be a good option for that. We got Ali X. Hi Justin, I've watched many of your videos. Thanks so much, Ali. Are there new tutorials soon? Yes, I've been working on some new stuff. It's taken a little bit longer than I'd like, but and part of the reason is because I'm doing these live things. So this does take a good amount of time to do these, just mentally to get back in the rhythm of actually recording. So from going from questions to going to recording, it just takes a little bit of time. So yeah, there will be new tutorials soon on YouTube. I have been releasing stuff on joincfe.com, but I'm assuming that you mean YouTube. So yes, I will be having more stuff on YouTube soon. If you look at a previous poll, you'll have an idea of what's coming next. Like the most recent poll that I've done, that will give you an idea of that. Thanks for the question. So Anthony Anande, I noticed you use more function-based views than class-based views in your tutorials. Why? Anthony, maybe you're watching older tutorials, because I pretty much only use class-based views now, unless I'm introducing just for simplicity purposes, introducing function-based views to then later change to class-based views. But I'm almost positive I do that exact thing in Try Django 1.11, which is my most recent Try Django. And you can also check my GitHub. So joincfe.com/GitHub. That will show you all of the class-based views that I'm going for. And a big part of the reason why I was using function-based views for a really long time is I think the switch from, like mentally the switch from going from function-based views to class-based views is a little bit harder to understand. Or it is challenging to understand because function-based views are just so easy. It's like you receive a request and then you render some stuff back. Boom, easy, done. Class-based views are also so easy, but it doesn't work that way. You have to know the little nuances that go into any given class-based view. And that's why before I pretty much only did function-based views for that reason. Reem Jamal, how do you do device registration with Django? What do you mean by device registration? Let me know about that, and then please rephrase or re-ask that same question so I can see the context of it, because I'm not really scrolling back. But thanks for the question, Reem. Simone Jala, thanks for the question. Would Heroku be good for a site that gets 100,000 users daily? Yes, Heroku is absolutely scalable, and it's built on top of Amazon Web Services servers, right? So much like Netflix is built on Amazon Web Services servers, so is Heroku. So they both scale and can handle a large load like 100,000 users daily. Now, if you're getting that many though, you might as well not use the abstraction that is Heroku. You might as well just use like EC2 and build out your cloud servers yourself. Maybe, maybe not. It really depends on who's on your team and what the demands of your project are beyond just the user access. Sam Anand, hello. Thank you for your time. You're welcome. Thank you for asking questions. I'm glad you're here joining us. How to implement Django in place edit bootstrap to your advancing the blog. Oh, okay. So you're spending your holidays listening to me talk about Django. Thanks. Appreciate it. Sam, it sounds like you're from Switzerland. I've never been, but I've heard great things. And that's true for Kenya. I've heard great things about that. I did mention that somebody else said they were from Kenya. But I do want to see the world more. I just recently had a daughter. So I'm still like, we haven't traveled a whole lot since having her. So we're in the process of thinking about starting to travel more and eventually getting to Switzerland. Sorry, that's not even your question. I went on a tangent. I always do that. Okay. So how do you implement Django in place edit in Bootstrap? Honestly, I don't know. I've never used that package before. I would say you're trying to edit content in an HTML page itself. Perhaps learning a little bit about jQuery to use that and doing something where like you click on an element, it turns that element into a input text file, and then once you hit save or continue, that element then gets sent back to your server using the REST framework or something like that. That is something, that's how I would start it, and not using a third-party package, because then using the third-party package, you don't really know how to execute this. And if that package breaks or they change or they just stop updating it, then you're gonna run into more issues with your service because you didn't figure out how to do the basic thing of doing inline editing on text anyway. I would say the inline editing, though, the user experience of that is often not great. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. I mean, it starts to get a little bit more advanced, and if you're just like, my philosophy is always just release your project, get your project out there, get real users using it, and then upgrade it and iterate after you have a bunch of people using it, so you can see how they're using it, and also you'll be able to just make better judgment calls about what should be improved. And if you are trying to do this in-place edit bootstrap thing, or any in-place edit, you might as well just use CRUD views, so a different view for updating that page in general, so you don't have to over-engineer the problem at first. Because yes, it's true that a lot of users absolutely want like the best possible thing off the bat, but if that happens in lieu of you releasing your project, I think that's a bad thing. Now, if you're improving your project and that's the question you're asking, then yeah, I would go the jQuery route and do that. Okay, so Landon Hughes asks, how does one know if they love programming? If you have to be told, I mean, I think you don't. I mean, if you're asking that question, you probably don't love it. The way I see it is, I look at it as a challenge, right? So like programming itself is a challenge that I like taking on. Not always. Sometimes I don't feel like doing it, but I love challenge, right? I love the actual challenge of it, and that's how I feel about programming and building software. So if you're thinking about it all the time, you're thinking about solutions, and you're thinking about, oh, what if I tried this, this, and this, then perhaps you have a strong feeling towards it, but I don't know if you love it, especially if you're asking that question. It's kind of like asking if you love your siblings or something. Like, how do you know if you love your siblings? Like, that's a question where maybe you don't. I don't know. Okay, so or your spouse, of course. If you're asking that question about your spouse, then yeah, maybe you need some other things. I don't know. Okay, so Farah's Geek DZ, is there any type of real-time support in Django 2.0? Yes, it's called Django Channels 2.0. Django Channels is an official Django project, and it does add real-time support or asynchronous coding and WebSockets to Django. Mr. Piggy 97 asks, what about a pyramid series? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't actually get a lot of questions about pyramid, so I haven't really done a whole lot with it. I get a lot of other questions in relation to Django and Python and web scraping, and then it comes to React and Angular and all that. So I don't hear about pyramid that much. So Anthony asks, is it possible to use join objects.getterCreate, so like model.objects.getterCreate in class-based views, and how can I access get absolute URL method from my create view? Yeah, Anthony, you're going to want to watch Try Django 1.11. This, I think that will clarify this stuff up for you, and because you can use something called get context data, which is a method inside of a class-based view where you can run things like get absolute URL. Get objects or create would be potentially in the create method. It can be in other places too. So, or the form valid method is probably what it would be in. So yeah, you're going to want to watch Try Django 1.11 would be my guess. Set Kane, do I have some Flask tutorials? Thanks for the question. I do not have Flask tutorials. Every time I've ever started working on a Flask tutorial, my mind's like, I should just show how this is done in Django. That's just how I feel. There's plenty of other Flask tutorials out there that are good. If people keep asking for them, then potentially, but I don't get asked actually that often about Flask tutorials themselves. But maybe in the future. I do have several things in the pipeline that I want to get out, so that's also another reason why I haven't done Flask, is because then it means that I'm not doing some of these other things that I think would really benefit so many of you that have subscribed to the channel. So Dave P115, hello. Thanks for joining us. Simone Ajala, sorry for pronouncing your name incorrectly. Are there any course or places that you can direct me to about cloud services for Django, like load balancer and storage, MySQL? So like doing a load balancer, actually, yeah, you can set up. So DigitalOcean has a tutorial on setting up a load balancer. They also have a tutorial on setting up a Ubuntu server with Django, which I have some of those things as well. But DigitalOcean has those specifically, except for the load balancer one I don't have. But the problem or the challenge with load balancers is that you have multiple servers connected to a load balancer. So what a load balancer does is if one of these servers fails, then the requests go to the next server. So it's kind of redundant servers, if you will. Setting up 3 servers, 4 servers, 10 servers with the same code base gets challenging, really, really challenging. And that's why I use something like Heroku. Heroku handles the load for me, so I don't have to worry about updating and creating load balancers myself. But you can definitely check out DigitalOcean in making load balancers happen. Dave P115 asks, how old am I? Dave, how old am I? How old do you think I am? That's the question I want to ask you first, and I'll tell you in a few minutes. Please respond really quickly, and then I'll definitely tell you in just a few minutes. Let me answer a few more questions, but I'm just curious to see what you think how old I am. DJ Zeri, hey dude, I want to thank you for your tutorials about Django. You're welcome. Thanks for watching them. I wanted to ask if there's another tutorial for Django but with Angular. Yeah, so we have Try Angular 4 on YouTube, and I believe, no, Django plus Angular or Angular plus Django. I can't remember the order. But anyways, the Django and Angular integrations are for sure on joincfe.com, either in /project or /courses. If you go to joincfe.com/courses, there's a brand new one that takes a very, very comprehensive course, like the biggest one I've ever done, and integrates that with an Angular front end. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. So get ready to go. I mean, to really be dedicated if you want to do that. More abstractly though, essentially what you're going to be doing with Django and Angular, with Django, you just build an API, and then you have one view or one URL that serves your Angular project, and then your Angular project consumes Django's API. That's essentially all that it is that you're doing. And your Angular project also doesn't have to live on your Django project. They could be separate. You can have one server for your Django project and one server for your Angular project, and have them run that way versus having them run together. So the integration is just really one API integrating with another. Okay, so let's see. Next question. Oh wow, got a lot of people guessing my age. Wow. Okay, hold on. I just have to address this now. Sam says 32. Muta Puta says 34. Max Techwell 30. 27. 30. Dave P thinks I look 42. Chris, my fiance is going to get a crack out of this stuff. Chris Camardo says 28. Anthony says 32. T Dot 22. King Herring 28. Man, I am 30. I'm 30 years old. Yeah, so I was born in 1987. Thank you for those of you who said under that, but dang, 42? Man, I need to sleep more or something. Honestly, having a child, if you have children, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But having a child does adjust what things you value and when you get to sleep. I'll just say that much. Okay, so let's see. Next question, real question. Well, I guess asking how old I am is a real question too. But yeah, I've been really interested in entrepreneurship since I was like 14. And that's what led me to learning how to code. And so I've been doing this stuff, 16 years now. Okay. So most of my life has been dedicated to doing entrepreneurial things, than anything, which is pretty cool. I'm proud about that. Okay. So is Amazon S3 a database for Django like SQLite? No, Amazon S3 is a static file storage facility. Okay. So it's similar to like, a hard drive, right? So if you have a hard drive, like, just a standard hard drive, it's like that, but it can host static websites. So just a basic HTML website. And it can also host your images and your videos and a bunch of other files as well. You could probably even store a SQLite database on one of those, but it's really just consider it more like a hard drive than a database solution itself. Except there is more things to it than just a hard drive, but that's essentially how you would want to look at it. And then you would not use it for your database in production, obviously. You would use, if you were using Amazon Web Services, they have several different databases that you can use, that you would use for production. You could use their PostgreSQL. They have MySQL. They have their own version of MySQL. They have several ones. So definitely check it out. Check out all the services they have. It's quite a bit. I mean, even if you launched your own EC2 instance, so Amazon Web Services EC2, you can definitely download and install your own database if you'd like on an EC2 instance. So there's just a lot of things that you can do with AWS. But S3 is made for storing static files. That's what it is. Static file storage. And again, you can store a SQLite database. I don't know if you should. That's a question that I just don't have the answer to. I wouldn't do that. I would use one of their other database items. Ben Morse, it's a love-hate relationship. I'm assuming you're talking about programming, and yes, it absolutely is. But are love and hate on the same side of the same coin, right? Are they on opposite sides? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think programming sometimes is awesome. It's so much fun, and sometimes you hate it because it's not working the way you were trained or you thought, and then you're doing one little thing for days, it seems like, and it happens to be that you put a comma in the wrong place, and then the error log was wrong, and blah blah blah. Yeah, that's when you start hating programming sometimes. But overall, if you do it a lot, you end up loving it. Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like how do you describe love anyway? Like yeah. Okay. So Lennon Hughes. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Happy to help. Simone, do you have any videos about Django Cache and session in depth? Django Cache, the docs actually have a lot of really good stuff about the caching framework that is built in. So no, I don't. And because the docs are so good. So Django sessions, like what is it that you're trying to learn with sessions and cache in general? Then maybe I can steer you in a direction to help you with that. Because we do talk about Django sessions here and there, but not like in depth. So I need to know kind of what in depth means. Sam, I guess you're self-employed. I can tell you, can you tell us more? Maybe you have a web dev agency and I know you teach Django. Yes, I am self-employed and I do consult with businesses sometimes. Sometimes I actually do web development. That's very rare. So I rarely freelance at this point. And I mostly teach. So I teach on codingforentrepreneurs.com, on YouTube, and a few other places. Yeah. Morad, hi. What's up? Dave P, do I play video games? I actually don't play as much as I used to. I love Call of Duty, and I don't have a latest system other than my Windows computer. So maybe eventually I'll play Call of Duty. Why do you want to play some video games with me? That might be interesting, huh? Some Call of Duty online. I haven't done that in a while. Probably wouldn't be very good right now. And maybe I should live stream that too, huh? But it'd have to be on Twitch. It couldn't be on YouTube. It couldn't be on this channel, that's for sure. Or could it? I don't know. You guys tell me. King Herring, Hi, I do programming live streams on my own channel if anyone's interested. Cool. Thanks for letting us know, I guess. Anthony Adonde, very interested in Simone Alajo's questions about middlewares. I really want to know how to handle sessions. Anthony, please be a little bit more clear as to what you're talking about, because middleware and sessions, granted, they can work together, but they're not necessarily the same. So fill me in on what it is that you guys are trying to figure out about sessions. Like when you log in, when you authenticate, you start a session. When you don't authenticate, when you just visit the website, you could start a session then too. And then you can remove sessions. So our e-commerce course, like when you add items to a cart, you can put the cart ID in the session so it's related to that user. And then when you load other pages and stuff like that, you'll still see what that cart is and what's going on without having to look it up every single time, or store it in some other way. So you can store IDs for your session and pass it around so then other code pieces can use parts of those sessions. Middleware, on the other hand, goes in between requests. So requests or responses, it sits right in the middle. So when you request a web page from Django, it goes through all of the middleware services, and then it goes to the view because of the URL or something like that. That's where middleware lies. And it's also true when you send a response. When you send a response from a view, it goes to middleware, and then it sends it back as a response. So Chris asks, compare Django or Node.js with Django. What is the best for real-time microservice API? Well, Django channels might become the best for real-time, but Node.js is still probably the winner there. I think we still have a little bit more time for making Django itself, just core Django, a real-time microservice or a real-time service in general. But again, Django channels adds that real-time dimension that didn't used to be there, but it's still brand new, where Node.js has been around for a while. So like, for example, Instagram has used Django as their backend for a very, very long time, and then used Node.js for their notifications. They might have changed that, but that's what it was for millions and millions of users. Pretty cool. Cool, I get to see the ages again. Just kidding. So do I need a CDN for media content, videos, images for Django in production, or is root media path good for production? So using a content delivery network or CDN in production is pretty much always recommended. If not using a CDN, then at least use Amazon S3. So what a CDN does is it essentially makes copies of your static files throughout the world. So when any user from anywhere in the world accesses your site, those files are closer to them, so they load faster. That's one part of it. The other part of it is when you use a CDN, a lot of times those things are cached in your browser. So if you go to a website that has, let's say, for instance, you're using Bootstrap's CDN. So Bootstrap is the CSS and front-end library. If you use Bootstrap's CDN version on one page and you go to a new page, you don't have to reload Bootstrap all over again. You would only have to load it once. So that's something else that's really cool about using CDNs. But the global distribution part is I think the more important part to making your site load much, much faster. Cool. Let's see. Oh, whoa. For some reason, when I scroll on these questions, it just jumps. Landon Hughes, I have an interest in programming. I just finished a Django 2.0 Udemy course a few days ago. I have all the bits and pieces of programming, putting it together is the hardest part. Landon, check out my Try Django 1.11 series. That, like everything that I try to do, especially if they're really comprehensive projects like the Try Django ones, I try to help you put all of the pieces together as we build it. I can't say that for other courses. I have no idea what you learned or what you did. So check out Try Django 1.11 and do it with the version Django 1.11 and stick with it. Do the whole thing. I think it's a little over 8 hours. It's definitely a lot, but if you're committed and you want to make this happen, you can do it. I absolutely believe that. And then once you finish Try Django 1.11, hopefully then you'll have a much better understanding of how to build something real and even deploy it, because I show you all of that. And then you can start thinking about how to use either different versions of Django, but then you can also think about how you can improve it, or potentially watch other courses for new ideas, whether they're mine or somebody else's, that doesn't matter. Okay, so great question. I really appreciate it. You can do this, man. I really think so. You just have to be dedicated and not give up. Every once in a while, you'll find something that just doesn't resonate with you, and you should maybe stop and try something else. Meaning, if you're in a course that's just like, it's just hard to understand what's going on, potentially stop that course and find another course or another series with that same subject, like Django, for example, and try that one, because every instructor is a little bit different and they do things a little bit different, have their own methodology. So that's what I would do. I would stop right away if it's really just dragging and really hard to get through. Even if a ton of people love it, right? Like, and definitely take that for my stuff too, right? So if whatever I'm saying isn't resonating with you, then find something that does, because you should not give up on getting your project done because of one or a few people teaching a course. Absolutely not. Or learning the new skills. Yeah. Edin asks, when do you personally use class-based views or function-based views? Thanks, Edin, for the question. You guys, I really like answering these questions. There's a part of me that almost wasn't going to live stream today. That's why I'm doing it a little bit later, just because I had a bunch of other things that I was doing. So I just almost didn't get to it, and I'm so glad I did, because I can talk to you guys about these sort of things. So you've found class-based views so clunky to use, and you have to take 16 steps back with mix-ins, inheritance, and all that crap to make one forward. Okay, so edit. Depending on where you are in your Python journey, using class-based views become ridiculously easy when you understand them really well. I struggled with that transition as well, right? So like 7 years ago, I was struggling bringing, or maybe it wasn't that long ago, I don't remember. I was struggling bringing function-based views over to class-based views because function-based views are just seemingly so clean. But when you want to use a list view, for example, or list out a bunch of items and use pagination, class-based views are just hands down so much easier. All you have to do is write a query set where the template is, and then boom, a lot of things happen by default. So generic class-based views are those things that really supercharge your project, or at least your building of your project. But if you're really struggling with having them, I do cover them on my website, but also on joincfa.com, right? So, but also stick with function-based views to get your thing done, and then go line by line and figure out how you might switch some of them over. Every once in a while, you might be like, well, it doesn't actually make sense to bring this function-based view over to a class-based view because I have it, it's fairly long, maybe it's like 10, 15, 20 lines long, and it wouldn't always make sense to bring it over to a class-based view in that case. But I would really, if I were you, I would really try and challenge myself to learn class-based views, especially generic class-based views, to get those really understood on how you can do a create view, an update view, a delete view, a list view, because they do save a ton of time when you're building projects. I promise you that. But I understand your pain. I really do. That's why generic views exist, so you don't have to do as many mix-ins. That's another part of it. So King Herring asks, any thoughts on code of conduct people running tons of projects? Reason I asked is I got banned from the Django community subreddit and IRC. Yeah, so if you are asking too much, like right now I set up a form specifically for you to ask too much, right? Like I want you guys to ask a bunch of questions so I can answer them so we can all benefit. But certain places aren't like that, right? Like, so Reddit has rules, and if you spam it, they're going to kick you off, right? And that's that. So I would say follow along with those rules, but also realize that everyone's busy and not everyone can look at what you're doing and give you advice or look at your code or any of that. So do keep that in mind. So when you are posting anywhere, let's say, for instance, you have a question about one specific snippet of code, you could just post that snippet of code and say, hey, what am I doing wrong here? Or you could post that snippet of code and say, hey, I tried this, I tried this, I tried this, and I tried this, and it's still not working. My goal is this. That then becomes a little bit better of a conversation, not just for you, but for everybody else, right? So that's kind of what I think about. But again, I don't know what you've been doing on those subreddits. So I mean, maybe you've just been spamming people and they don't like that, right? So I would also say check out Stack Overflow if you haven't used that, and read things. So if there's something that's already been posted about your question and it's on Stack Overflow, don't repost it. I don't know. I feel like that's fairly common sense. You could maybe get more clarification in the one that's already been asked, but you don't need to make a new question. Cool. So yeah, some more jokes about how old I am. Booyah. Yes. Is this tea I'm drinking? No, I'm actually drinking coffee. I am obsessed with coffee. I do like tea, but I don't know. I like black coffee better. I didn't used to. I used to hate coffee, and then I stopped drinking soda altogether, and I did coffee instead. Soda is really bad for you, and I've heard that for a very long time, but I was addicted to it. I still am. I am addicted to it. If I drank it now, I would probably go down the path that I don't want to go down, so I drink coffee instead. And I try not to overdo it, but sometimes I do. Today might be one of those days that I'm overdoing it, but it's fine. It's fine in moderation every once in a while, right? Cool. Okay, so when I scroll, it goes to the very bottom. I need to go back up. Okay, so Mr. Piggy asks, what about a tutorial about cross-site scripting security? So cores, using cores. The Django course headers third-party framework is really, really good if you're doing it with Django. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's really good, and it's really easy to set up. They give you a lot of examples, so check that out. I think I probably have something related to that somewhere. I'm sure I do. I probably have had to. So check out on joincfe.com, search for cores, and I think I cover something like that somewhere. Simone asks, this may be a stupid question, but when I use Heroku as a cloud server and use Postgres as my database, is the database store on the same server as Django, or is it two different servers connected? Typically it will be separated, right? So like there's actual servers made for databases, and then there's actual servers for Django. So like they're not on the same server. It's not a stupid question. That's an interesting one, because if you made your own, let's say for instance you opened up a DigitalOcean account and you created your own Ubuntu server, chances are really good what you would do is you would install MySQL or PostgreSQL into that same server. You wouldn't necessarily intuitively think to make it as its own server. And I'm 90% sure that Heroku is using different processes and different servers specifically for that. I don't think they'd be able to scale to the point that they do without having them as different processes. Now, I actually don't know that answer specifically. I think, like, my intuition is saying that yes, it's absolutely what it is, because it would be probably crazy not to be, but Yeah, I'm not positive. Dave P, my screen was blurry before. Now you look young. Are you sure you're 30 or you look 22? Oh, thanks, Dave. Nice recovery. I was 42. Now I look 22. Thank you. I think actually part of it too is my beard. Like I've definitely had my beard shaved before, and people have told me I look a lot younger when I don't have a beard, but I like having a beard, so I keep it. Abdel, how do I prevent a brute force attack in Django? How do you prevent that from happening? How do you prevent it? There's not a really good answer for that. Yes, you want to follow their security best practices, but at the end of the day, hackers are going to try and hack things all across the board. So preventing it, well, what you could do is actually set it up so you don't have as much damage. So using something like Heroku, I believe that they will have backup systems that will help you get back up online. So they have other third-party services that will allow you to get back online faster if you experience a brute force attack. And then also firewalls and all that. But here's one. Mucha says Defender app to deal with brute force attacks. There you go. So there are third-party packages that allow that to happen. But as far as like preventing them, I don't know if you actually can prevent them, because the thing with security is there's holes in all kinds of software because we haven't fixed everything yet. And honestly, some hackers are using deep learning to find these holes on your site. So yeah, it's complicated. It's a very complicated issue, and it's something outside the realms, outside the realm of what I'm actually good at. I promise you. I like the Defender app. I've never used that one before, so security is probably something I need to know more of, and yeah, perhaps I need more research. But I do know that when it comes to security in general, there's no foolproof solution, and a lot of times it's the illusion of security too, right? So like locking your front door often is the illusion of security. Like if somebody really wanted to get into your house and your front door was locked, I don't think that front door being locked would prevent them, right? Like in my house, it's just wood and metal and stuff like that. So one could just break the wooden door with something, get in real quick and get out real quick. It would be harder to do that and get away with it maybe, but also maybe not, And I think the same is true with software. And in fact, software is probably easier to penetrate overall because it's written by humans and there's all sorts of things out there to help people do things maliciously. Plain and simple. Yeah. So, sorry, that probably doesn't really answer your question. But check out Django's security stuff, and then also just watch some videos from security experts on YouTube, because there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And also watch videos on YouTube from DEF CON. DEF CON is a conference in Las Vegas that talks about a lot of these hacker type things. So you can be on the lookout for what they might do. And then another thing, a really cool book is, I think it's called Ghost in the Wires by Kevin Mitnick. If you want to read a book about hacking and one of the original hackers, check that one out. It's a great book. I really enjoyed the audiobook specifically. Catherine Carthion asks, thanks for the questions, guys. And Carthion, I appreciate it. Having a good time. And just a side note, if you're not hearing about these things and you want to, like if you're watching this video later, make sure you subscribe to get everything, of course, and then hit the little bell icon. That will give you a notification that I've scheduled a live event so you can jump on. So Carthion asks tutorials on how Python works. Do you mean like the basics of Python, or do you mean like the advanced, like what Python is type of stuff? let me know. I have 30 days of Python on codingforentrepreneurs.com or joincfe.com, so you can check that out for some basic stuff. And then also on the YouTube channel, there's some coding with Python series that cover some of the basics. Might check that out as well. Simone's asking again, cache follow-up question. I've looked at the docs for it and got confused as to if cache is in a default, if it caches as a default or it's an optional feature. Tutorial about how to do it would be interesting. Okay, cool. Thanks for the suggestion. I do appreciate it. They have some examples of just implementing cache, and you could also just Google how to implement cache in Django, and I'm sure there's a Stack Overflow post or even a blog post from somebody somewhere that you can do it. I'm glad you find these live streams entertaining. I didn't realize they were. I thought they might be not. So next one, Pysitim, that same name that I don't know how to pronounce. It says I skipped your question. Actually, if I scroll up, it like redacts your question. I'm not sure what you're asking, but I think it was redacted from this. Like it was just automatically removed. I wasn't intentionally doing that. Yeah. So how does the live stream look, by the way? Can you guys let me know? Give me a thumbs up or something. Scrolling up. Okay, so next one. Simone, do you have a tutorial for Django notifications? Do you mean notifications like push notifications, or do you mean notifications like you're on a site and you see a notification come through? If you're talking about the latter one, yes, on joincfe.com, we talk about notifications a lot in there. Push notifications, I don't have a whole lot on that. Firebase does cover it pretty well, so I'd check that out. And I do not have a tutorial on a CDN in Django at this point. I have stuff for AWS S3, and then you can use their CloudFront CDN from there. The setup process is a little complicated for that specifically, so there are other CDNs where I think it's really easy, and they might even have Django specific packages to update to there. Sina EBR, hello, thanks man, you're welcome, thanks for watching. What's the easiest and cheapest host for Django? I think the cheapest host or the least expensive for putting a real web page out there can be Heroku, because you can do $7 a month and get HTTPS, as well as deploying it is fairly easy if you know Git. Now, if you don't know Git and you're not ready to jump into Heroku, Webfaction is a really good option for that, and it's actually not incredibly hard to set up, and their support is really good. If you back up, you'll see what I talked about that. Dave P, I know nothing about coding. You currently know nothing about coding. Do you learn coding in 3rd grade? I'm not there yet. Not following what you're asking exactly. So maybe rephrase that, Dave. Thanks for the question, though. Fantastic. Tips for getting into freelancing. Yeah, I mean, work for free for a while. Honestly, like freelancing, yeah, you want to get paid for your work, absolutely, but you need to build up a portfolio, and also you want to have clients. So if you make really, really good work and you do it for free, let's say, for instance, me, for example, if you were to pitch me to be a freelancer for me, like for any project that I do, I would want you to build something for me and to show, one, that you are willing to do the work, and 2, that you take direction, and 3, that it's not just about the money. It's about connecting with your client and, you know, building something for them that lasts for a long time, not just the code, but also like the relationship, right? So you want to do that. You could also use Upwork.com and just price your services just really, really low and get a bunch of things done until your demand goes up, and then you raise your prices. And honestly, the question is, when you raise your prices and somebody says, hey, I used to be able to hire you for $10 an hour or $5 an hour or $2 an hour, whatever you end up putting it as, or $3,000 an hour, and you decide to go up a whole nother level, you literally say, hey, I used to do it for that, but I'm so busy that I can't. I really do want to work with you, but this is what I have to take now. I hope you understand it's not anything personal, but once you get to my range again, I'm happy to discuss things with you. So you're not really, I mean, you're still respecting like them for helping you get to where you are. But you're also being very clear with them that, hey, like you can't work for what you used to do. Right. So like a good analogy would be like a photographer, right? So if I hired a photographer to do some pictures of me for my website, for example, maybe I only want to pay $100 for that photographer, right? Just 100 for the day. And I don't think that's actually that bad, right? So like if you're getting started in photography and I'm going to pay you $100 for a day of shooting, that's $100 for your day. I mean, like you times that by 365, that's not terrible for a beginner. Now, when I increase my budget or I have like a huge team and we all need to do pictures, you know, maybe I try and go back to that photographer and say, hey, you did $100 a day the last time. Can you do it again? Yeah, sure. They might say yes. Or they might be like, well, actually now I charge $500 a day. Then I'll be like, oh, okay, you know, great to chat with you, but, you know, maybe this doesn't work. Maybe you can come back down. And then that photographer should say, you know, I don't work at that rate anymore, but once you're ready to move up, great. What your client's going to do, or me, I am the client in this case, what they're going to do is look for another person that's going to do it for $100, right? So you're never going to be able to move up the scale if you don't take it as, hey, I'm ready to move up that scale. But you always, when you're freelancing, especially, and you're starting to get into it, you always should take like what you're comfortable with, like as a job. Like if you have something that's comfortable enough, but also pushes you a little bit, but you know that you're going to do whatever you can to make that job happen. That is a very good mindset to have. And then once you have enough demand, you can start asking for more money and getting paid better for your freelancing. And that's true for any kind of freelancing, let alone software freelancing. Landon, you will be definitely taking my course. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you got something out of this live stream and look forward to hearing more of your questions as you go through the course. Please bring them to this live stream. As you see, I don't actually go through any code here. I'm just trying to answer questions for everybody else. But I do definitely try to help you guys navigate things generally. Okay. Dave P, I asked my dad if I could subscribe. He said no. What do I do? Simon, I'll go back to yours in just a second. Dave, you asked your dad if you could subscribe to what? To the website? And he said no. Is that what you're referring to? If you are, go on YouTube, build a ton of stuff from Django, show it to your dad, and say, look, Dad, I love learning and I want to learn from this website. Please support me in this learning. I'm a father. If my daughter came and said that to me, I would be like, whoa, I need to invest in my kid for doing this. And the proof is in the pudding. So I have a lot of free stuff on joincfe.com/YouTube. So you can absolutely go through all that free stuff and start showing it to your parents or anyone who's supporting you and help make that happen. If that still doesn't happen, if you do all these things, throw it on GitHub, send it to me, or send it to our team here, hello@teamcfe.com. Mention what I'm saying right now, and we'll figure something out for you. How's that sound? But you have to do the work. If you do the free work, we'll help you out with the other part based on what we said. And remind me that you are Dave P115, the guy who called me 42 years old. Joking, but seriously, remind me about that. That way I can remember specifically what we're talking about, because I've definitely met more than one Dave. So next one, Simone, again, if I use posts equals post.objects at all in a function-based view to list all the posts in my DB, would this be good for production? And would this line re-hit the database every time the view is called? Yes. So when you run post.objects or model.objects at all, and then you render it in your template, yes, the database is hit every single time that you go to that view. If you need to cache that, there is a way to cache a query set. So just Google that. Google how to cache a query set for X amount of time. That is something that then won't have to hit the database as often because it'll be cached. That's something important. Okay, Gino asks, where are you from? I grew up in Southern California, specifically the city of Irvine. I now live in Newport Beach, which is right next to Irvine, although I have lived in various places throughout the world, more specifically in Europe and also the United States. So if you want to know more of that, let me know. Guys, I'm going to be ending soon, so it looks like I don't have actually that many more questions. So let's keep these questions limited from here on out. Do I have a link to my Django 1.11 course? Go to joincfe.com/YouTube. And on YouTube, on that channel, what it's going to show you is try Django 1.11. It's one of those first ones. It's like 8 hours long. It's probably like in that first level of playlists on our main channel. Or you could probably search in my videos specifically for Django 1.11. You'll see it. Anthony, thank you so much. You've been helpful. Let me try Django 1.11 now. It's really fun to code. I love Django. You make it fun and challenging. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that it's fun and challenging, not just dry and challenging. I really don't want it to be dry, but when I show it to people who aren't interested in programming, wow, their eyes glaze over like crazy. Because, I mean, when you aren't interested in something, that's just what happens anyway, right? So it's good to hear that you guys actually find it fun. Or at least one of you does. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate it. A bed deal. How about some content about Django 2.0? Yes, try Django 2.0 will be coming out in the near future. Just gotta finish another project, and then I'll be working on that. Simone, what about a max amount of lines for function-based views? And then authentication classes, or should I use middleware to minimize the lines? So this is where, like, if you are repeating yourself a lot in function-based views, this is where you should learn class-based views, because then you can use a mix-in to eliminate the need to repeat yourself over and over again, even in just a standard view, a standard function or a standard class-based view of the view class, the capital V view class. Then you can use mix-ins to eliminate the need to repeat yourself over and over again. Landon, glad you found the course. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you in it. Simone, is there anyone in this live that is still in high school? I'm sure there are. There might be. Hopefully, we'll see. What high school, or not what high school, where in the world are you guys located? Let me know. Sam, what Django CMS do you prefer? I do not prefer one. I prefer building a CMS. I personally do not like using those pre-built CMSs. I would rather have control over the code. The way they're built are probably fantastic. They're probably great packages. But me personally, I like building it myself so I can make changes as I need without having to go and slog through all their code, because they don't write code the way the Django developers do. At least that's my opinion. But I've heard good things about Django Mezzanine, so yeah, maybe you guys could check it out. Cool. Let's see. So Anthony Lannon Hughes, can you please help me with the link? Go to joincfe.com/projects. It's in the link tab. That's another one. It's also on, yeah. So you guys are figuring it out. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Simone, is Django best for text-based applications, Reddit versus media-based applications, Netflix, Instagram? Well, Instagram was built with Django, so it can use both. Netflix itself has a lot of other technology, because Netflix literally, I think it gets like 1/3 of the US traffic every day. 1/3. Maybe it's 25%, but it's a crazy amount. So Netflix, Django probably couldn't be powering Netflix, is my point. Maybe parts of it, but not the whole thing. And that's true for Instagram. It doesn't actually power the whole thing. It powers a good portion of it, but Node.js powers the other thing. Simone, like push notifications. Yeah, that's also using like something like Firebase. And I would imagine that Django channels can now handle post notifications. Just haven't seen it, and I don't know if it's even implemented yet. Okay, cool. So sweet, we're almost done. I'm working on a data collection tool with Angular and Firestore. Is it a good idea to plan to use pandas for data cleaning? Should I complete move to normal DB like MongoDB? I'm confused. Any advice? Data collection tool. So pandas for data cleaning, absolutely. That's a really, really fast way to clean data. For those of you who are not familiar with pandas, pandas is a Python library that makes it easier to work with a lot of data. So yeah, pandas is really good for that. And I think there's even one that's like even for bigger sets of data, like terabytes worth of data, that uses pandas. It's like on top of pandas. So it's something out there that's like that. You could move to a complete database solution. That also depends on how you're storing the data. So if you're storing it into CSV files, yeah, you can still use pandas. I don't see anything wrong with that. It depends on if you need security for this data. If you need security, then yeah, I mean, using something like MongoDB might be good, or MySQL or PostgreSQL, and like actually securing the database. MongoDB and Django, as far as I know right now, don't play nicely together, so I don't often recommend MongoDB, even though I've heard really good things about it. Sam, Python Anywhere is $5 a month. Thank you for that point. That is probably the least expensive of the hosts. You might be using a shared server then, but it still might work really well. And that's inexpensive. I mean, you want to get your project out there and do it on the free way as much as possible. Heroku does have a free tier, like completely free. Free as in $0. That's another thing. If you want to test things, you can do it for free there. Michael, as an incoming comp sci student, any advice on how to have a leg up in the industry? Yeah, build a ton of value. Answer questions on Stack Overflow. Post your own gists with code where you're trying to solve problems that you ran through. Blog. Actually write blog articles about the things that you're learning. Also maybe make videos about the things that you're learning. Because then when you go to an employer, you can say, hey, this is my knowledge that I've posted online. The reason I posted it online is so I can get better, so I can answer other people's questions, and also so eventually when I come to a job, I'll be able to prove to you that I know what I'm doing. Or that I'm willing to put the work in and grow, right? So like any boss, any organization, they want to see that trajectory of you getting better, right? Imagine if I was as good as I was at Django 5 years ago now, and I'm teaching you the same stuff I did 5 years ago and I never improved. There's not a chance that any of you would be sitting here talking with me. Not a chance. You'd be like, this guy really doesn't know much. Like he knows some things, but he doesn't know nearly as much as he should to have these sorts of conversations. And I feel that way about now. Like I still think there's so many things that I need to learn, that it does take some time for me to get there, right? It absolutely will. And I think the same is true for you. And you want to prove that you have this growth. And honestly, if you start having your own tutorials and all that stuff, I think it'll give you a leg up against everybody that you're competing with. Because if you had, let's say for instance, you graduate college. So if you're starting as a freshman at a 4-year university, you have 4 years to pump out content, and you could literally make, I don't think there's anything, like you should be able to make 100 videos a year. That's doable in my opinion. I make way more than that, but if you could make 100 videos a year, even if it was 20 videos a year, I think that's kind of weak, but I think you could do 100 videos a year or 100 blog posts explaining what you're learning in your classes. It will do several things for you, but it will also do things for other people. And perhaps maybe you build your own career like I have. Maybe you end up turning into you have your own tutorials, and you have questions just like what we're doing here. But it would absolutely give you a leg up in the industry, especially at your age. And then also like contributing to third-party packages, like going on GitHub and finding a package that you find really interesting, looking for bugs, and giving your own implementation or even giving ideas and whatnot. Yeah, so cool. Dave P, I would be a good game show host. Thank you. What game? I've never heard that before. It's flattering. Why do you say that? Is it my voice? Is it my attitude? Is it both? Let me know. Carlos, dude, thumbs up to you too, man. Landon, great, perfect, awesome. I don't remember exactly what you're referring to, but cool. I'm glad you'll take some action, whatever that is. Louise, thank you for your classes. That's what he said. You are welcome, Louise. And you're from Brazil. I'm from California. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you all. We got another one, Abduro Cloud. It's €1 per month. Wow, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Sam, congrats on your daughter. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Being a parent is the best. It absolutely is. I mean, I can't encourage you enough. If you're at a place in your life where you're ready to have children, have children. It's so much fun. But then again, maybe it's not for everybody because it is a lot of responsibility. You absolutely have a lot of responsibility for this life. And that's what it is. But it's a phenomenal thing. And it really does help having a partner that you have a phenomenal relationship with. And I do. I'm lucky enough to have that. But a big part of all of those things was, just deep self, reflection and learning about things. So that connection happens, and then I can have this beautiful daughter and this beautiful family that I have. I'm really, really lucky. So thank you, Sam. Clint, you missed what the best and cheapest hosting service again? There's several. Just scroll up in the comments. There's a few suggestions there. Heroku is what I use. There's a lot of free versions for Heroku, as well as Webfaction. You can also rewind the live chat after it goes live or into a video. Okay, guys. Quite literally, I'm gonna just rapid fire a few other ones. Howard County, Maryland. Hey, what's up, Maryland? Mexico. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for everything. Thanks for checking stuff out. Brazil. Awesome. There's a lot of places I need to go. Really, there really is. Just so many fascinating things in this world. The Go language, I don't use it that much. I've heard some good things. I prefer using Python, so that's what I've been sticking with. And there's just so much to do that I haven't really done much with Go language, but I've heard some good things. Next question. Do you need to use PostgreSQL to deploy on Heroku? As far as I know, yes, that's what they use, but they probably have other hosting solutions. I'm pretty sure that they have MySQL. They probably have MongoDB because Heroku is a platform that definitely wants to make things happen. Oh, I see Canada from Clint. Where in Canada? Canada's a fairly big country. I've been to Vancouver. Love it there. Let's see. So does anyone have a certificate here? A certificate for what exactly, Ram? Thanks for the question. Dave P, you are 7 years old and you're asking these questions? Wow, that is awesome. That is really cool. Dave, way to go. And your dad called me a pedophile. Jeez. I had no idea how old you were. And if you're interested in coding, use YouTube. There's so many free videos on YouTube and you can learn a lot from it. I think it's awesome that you're 7, but also be a 7-year-old and have fun. Like you can absolutely learn how to code, and I really encourage you to do that. And playing video games and making video games would be a lot of fun. And please tell your dad sorry for me. I had no idea how old you were. You're asking great questions for a 7-year-old. I mean, I applaud you. You are gonna, if you start learning how to code now, I can't even imagine where you're gonna be in a few years. That's pretty awesome. So thanks so much, you guys. Calgary, Clint, awesome. Ukraine, what's up, Ukraine? Haven't been to Calgary or Ukraine. More places I need to visit someday. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks so much for the questions. I actually got through all of them. Perhaps it's because of the time of the day. Maybe that makes a difference. All right, fine. Agun. Agun? Why did I choose Python? Oh man, I gotta stop. Okay, so Python is to me, Python is an awesome language, and it's really easy to jump into. PHP, I think, is dying, and it's an older language. Python has so many applications. It works in a lot of different places. That's why I chose Python. And to me, it's just a lot easier to pick up. That's the best answer I can give you right now, because I'm trying to get off this. And then, hi, providing e-commerce web and mobile apps to local business, is that a good idea? Yeah, it's a great idea. If you can help local businesses get online and build apps, do it. That you can really cement yourself in with some of these local businesses, because you can see them in person and shake their hand, you know? Manprit, thank you for the comment. I'm glad that you enjoy all my content and I've helped your career. I really appreciate it. Okay, guys, I'm going to be getting off. Thanks so much for all your questions. If you have more questions, leave them in the comments of this video after it posts. That will happen just shortly after this. It does take some time to actually load. So thanks again for watching, and look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell to get notifications about the next live streams. See you guys next time. Thanks a lot.